This is the xBloom. It's like an automated pour-over coffee maker. And I'm not going to give you a first look review of this. I have been using this thing for the past 2 months, and it has replaced all of my pour-over coffee paraphernalia. So I'm going to show you how to brew a basic coffee. Then I'm going to show you some customizations you can do in the app. And then finally, I'll show you how you can use your own beans with this thing and a few other hints and tips that I've picked up over the past couple of months. Let's get started. So at its heart, this is a pod machine. Comes with these pods here. This is sugarcane. It's all biodegradable. There's some holes at the bottom here, which is where the coffee will come out. And there is an RFID tag at the bottom here, which is what we use to scan in a recipe for this thing. If we open it up, inside is a paper filter. And look at that, not coffee grounds, actual coffee beans. So no more ground coffee in your pods. We actually have real freshly brewed beans in here. This is a blend called The Natural from Black and White Roasters, I think. So how do we go about brewing a coffee? Well, this is super easy. We're just going to do this the way that I use it most mornings, which is to not bother launching the app or anything like that, but just to simply brew. So behind here, I have my water. This is my water reservoir. It holds 700 milliliters of water. That's not huge. It's enough for 2 or 3 cups, not much more than that. And if you look on the front here, there's no screen as such. It's just code. This thing talks in code, and actually I kind of love it. So let's get started. Now, each one of these beans comes with a recipe that is provided by the roaster, and that tells the machine exactly what to do in terms of coffee to water ratio, in terms of the temperature of the water, and the whole profile as to how the water should actually be added to the beans. So let's just give this a try. First thing we do is up here, there is a RFID scanner. So we just scan this. Now, if I wanted to understand the full profile that has been set, I would go in and look in the app, but I can just see on the front here roughly what my water to coffee ratio is, what my water temperature is going to be, and what my grind size is going to be on the grinder. So the first thing it's telling me to do is to add the beans with this little kind of runway thing in here. So let's pour those in. So that just now leaves me with this empty cup. And you can see here better the paper filter that's built into this. Now to get started, all I need to do is add a cup under here, put this into the little tray here to start brewing a coffee, push it down, off it goes. So that was the 48mm conical burr grinder doing its thing. Got my ground coffee now, and now here comes the fun part. So you can see that the water has been added in a slow circular motion, and it just adds a little bit of water just to wet the grounds. Then you can see the coffee coming out the bottom here. There are 3 holes on the bottom. Sometimes it just comes out of the one. So now we're effectively performing the bloom stage here. Just wetted those grounds, and then this thing lights up again. I love the light. And continues in this kind of circular motion. Now what's going on here? There's not a motor or anything like that. This is some kind of, what do they call it? Solid state pouring technology. It's doing something clever here in order to create that motion. And you can actually set a number of different motion profiles. So straight down, circular, spiral, and so forth, which I'll show you in a little bit. Now that's it. That little beep there, that tells me that it's kind of finished with its water. You can see it's still dripping out a little bit, so I'll leave this for a few seconds longer until I hear that second beep. And at that point, I think I'm ready now to take my coffee away. Now, one little pro tip from using this for a few months, if you now just remove this filter, it's going to be a bit of a mess. So keep this on hand, because then you can just take this out, put it on there, and then dispose of it. So how did the coffee turn out? It's so good. That's what I love about Pourover, is the fact that you can get this very smooth profile that's easily at least as good as what I could have achieved manually. And I'm not surprised, because the whole profile that was used here was specifically dialed in by the roasters. Now, a few things to show you about kind of how this works. Everything is kind of done on magnets. It just slides in like that. In terms of cleanup, what you need to do is pretty much nothing. Every now and again, you might want to check here for the grinder because of course you might have static that has built up. So if I pull this out, you can see there's a little bit of coffee grinds here, not much. You can see there's a little bit of retention here, hardly anything, and just a little bit here as well. They do provide this brush that you can use. So I will, every few batches, just take this and kind of brush it off. Okay, so for round 2, let me show you how this works when you use the app. So I'm running the xBloom app here. I can connect to my xBloom. It shows it's online. Now this is not required in order to brew a coffee, and I'm very grateful for that. I don't want to be messing around with an app most mornings, but it is very interesting to see what it's doing and how you can modify and customize these profiles. So first thing we'll do is I've got a new set of beans here. This is called Tropical Weather. I'm going to scan the RFID code, and you'll see on my app now it's popped up and said, oh yeah, this is the pod detected and it's tropical weather. And if I click on that, I can see a little bit more information about the roaster profile. So I can see the size of the grind, so 29. The grinder does have up to 30 settings, so 29 is pretty coarse. The temperature that I'm going to brew at, which is 203 Fahrenheit, and then the ground water to coffee ratio of 1:16. Now I can edit this if I want. I can also understand a little bit more about what's in here, the sort of tasting notes that I will get. But I'm just going to leave this as the default and watch along in the app as it goes through the process again. So open up, there's about 15 grams of beans here. This is a bit of a lighter roast. Now I do have one tip for these beans to just kind of reduce the static. It wasn't very much, but just in case that's a concern, you're in a dry environment, the old water spritz bottle does great. So I'll just take this, give it a spray, just to wet the beans slightly, and that will reduce any static if that is a problem. Okay, let's add the beans in. And this time, rather than pushing down, I'm actually going to press start in the mobile app. Off it goes. Now it does show you the status in the app here. If we click on brewing info, we can actually see a little bit more about what's going on. So right now we're in stage 1, which is to add 50 milliliters of water at 203 Fahrenheit and to add it in a spiral pattern. You see that? It's also doing a little shake here as well because we have a vibration after set to on. So these are things that you as the person putting together a recipe can set up. So it's going to do this, it's going to hold this for 29 seconds of a pause. That's able to enable the bloom. And then if we click to the next section, next we're going to add 60 milliliters of water. We're going to use a center pattern for this, which will just be straight down and then pause for 20 seconds with no vibration. There it goes with its center pattern. Now I must say, when I make pour over coffee myself, I just always use a spiral. I don't know when you should use a spiral versus a center, but now I don't have to know because the roasters have created this profile for me. So now we're moving on to a spiral pattern, pausing for 13 seconds. Vibration before is off, vibration after is on. So once we've added the 65 milliliters, it will then vibrate the grounds again. There it goes. Now we're into the final profile here, adding 65 milliliters of water. You see the temperature has changed here. Now we're only at 196 Fahrenheit, where earlier we were at 203. So it's another factor that you can work into your recipe. And honestly, I could watch this all day. I know I said I run this unattended, but I just get endless amusement from all of this. All right, one beat there that says we're done adding water, and then it will just wait a few more seconds before giving us the final beat, which says it's time to move on and drink the stuff. Yeah, much lighter roast. You can smell a bit more acidity. Yeah, so different. Actually, I have the other one on hand here. I don't know if you can see the difference in color. Not really, but very, very different in taste. Of course, we're using 2 different beans, but we used 2 different extraction methods as well. So really getting 2 very different coffees out of this. Okay, now for the final stage, we're going to take a look at some customization, which is actually how I'm using this machine primarily. So the pod subscription model, it's very convenient. There are a lot of roasters that appear to have signed up to the xBloom store to sell the pods. It's a very convenient system, and I think for many people using this machine, that is the only way you're going to brew coffee. But I have all sorts of beans at home. These, for example, Big Trouble, where I want to use them with this machine as well. I want to be able to use my own machines. Sometimes I roast my own beans. I want to be able to try those in this machine as well. So how do I do that? Now, there's a few different ways you can do this in the app. If you click on the 3 buttons here, you do have an option to grinder. And you can actually use this machine just as a grinder and nothing else. So I can set my grind size. It's currently 29, but I can go from fine through to most coarse and purely use this as a grinder if I want to. Well, I don't want to do that. I just want to actually use it as a pour over coffee maker. And the way I'm going to do that is through an extra gadget, which is this here. This is an additional attachment, and you take this guy off and replace it with this. Now this just has 3 holes in the bottom, and it also has another RFID tag. And if I scan this, I have it set to the IF Design Award pod profile, but I can set this really to any profile that I want. So I can create my own profiles for my own beans and assign it to this tag. Now you'll see in this profile here, this roaster default profile, that my groundwater is red. That's because I don't have enough water for a 3rd brew. I'm not sure why they chose 700 milliliters of water to add to this, because it generally isn't enough for a 3rd cup. You end up leaving like an annoying amount of water in here, which is just below what you need to get that 3rd brew in. Okay, the app now moved to a solid white line. So let's get some beans in here. Just going to use my scale and measure out 15 grams of beans. Going to give this the old RDT quick spray and then pour them in. Now I don't want to just add this in and have the coffee run straight through here. There's no filter. So you do need to provide a paper filter. Fortunately, these work with these standard Kalita wave filters. This is the 155 wave filter. We can just insert that into here. There we go. And now we're ready to roll. Put this in here. Now I've been using glass cups, really just because it makes it easier to show you how this works. The way that I enjoy my coffees, I like to drink it quite slowly and I like to keep it warm, so I'll often use some kind of insulated travel mug to put the coffee into. But this is where there's one feature we need to consider, which is the amount of gap between here and the bottom of this device is not huge. If I take my usual travel mug, the insulated travel mug, it's nowhere near going to fit. But I'll tell you what does fit, this insulated travel mug from Yeti. This fits just perfectly under this and allowed this to move back and forth. So I could now go into the app and do my quick edit and change the grind size of 25, 203 Fahrenheit and 1 to 16, but I'm not. I'm going to stick with this award-winning roaster profile, and I could either hit start in the app here, or I could just do that, and off we go with another brew. Pull that out, dispose. Now I can put my top on here, and I've got my cup of coffee ready to sip for an hour or so while I'm sat at my computer working. So what do I think of this xBloom unit? Now, in full transparency, xBloom did send me a unit of this for free, but they're not telling me what to say. They're not paying for the review. I just wanted to try it. And all I can tell you is actions speak louder than words. And this is the thing that I have been using every day now for months. So I think that says its own story. The convenience is fantastic. It makes just a really solid cup of coffee, a really good cup of coffee, actually, much better than solid. And it completely takes away all of the manual work of the pour over effort. And the thing that I really want to get clear here, if it's not obvious on the video, is just the build quality and design of this thing is wonderful. Everything about the build quality, the aluminum is fantastic. I think it comes in 2 colors. This is silver, it comes in a darker color as well. The fact that there aren't motors powering this spiraling water as well should mean that this holds up for a good long while. There's also no buttons. Actually, there is one button. It's on the back. It's called the button. Now it does a bunch of kind of unrelated functions. Just one tap on it, I think, stops it in progress. So that could be important if you forgot to add a cup. Don't ask me how I know that. Also, you can control the Bluetooth connection on here by pressing this. And if you hold it down for 10 seconds, it will just run water straight through it, which should be very useful for cleaning. Now, this thing is not inexpensive, that is for sure. But this is something I can leave in my kitchen. It looks great and it completely automates my coffee process, and it lets me work with pods when I want to use pods, and it lets me work with my own beans as well. You have to make your own mind up on value and so forth, but I'm going to keep using this. And for anybody who is interested in this sort of coffee machine, I can thoroughly recommend it.